Today's guest on The Practice is the kind of leader who builds from the ground up and brings others along with him. Rashod Johnson is the president and CEO of Ardmore Roderick, one of the largest Black-owned engineering firms in the country. Under his leadership, the company has grown from a 10-person local team to a national powerhouse with more than 300 employees, offices across the U.S. and Puerto Rico, and over $30 billion in infrastructure projects. Some of these include the O'Hare Airport, the Obama Presidential Center, and Lockheed Martin projects. But the real story, Rashod didn't inherit any of this. He started the Roderick Group in 2005. He bootstrapped and fought his way through debt, merger, and economic downturn, and turned his vision into a legacy. I've had the privilege of being alongside him for the last 10 years, watching him transform his company. And this episode is about what it takes to grow when you're leading a company, when you're under pressure, and when you're building something that has never existed before. It's about how you maintain culture and hold honesty and humility at the center of it with the power of faith, and what it means to show up when nobody else looks like you. So listen, man, I am so fucking pumped to have you on this show, on this podcast, to get a chance to sit and listen and learn from you, to get in dialogue with you, for once, not necessarily about health and all of that. And I've had the privilege of watching, right, over like the last 10 years. I mean, this last decade has, really been pretty transformative, at least as I observe from a business standpoint. And I'd love to just get in conversation.
Yeah, sure. I'm excited as well.
Awesome.
Excited to tell the story.
So, before you became the CEO of one of the largest, right, minority-owned firms in America, who were you before that? What brought you to that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to start with saying, whenever someone qualifies it by saying the largest Black or the largest minority, I consider it the tallest midget. And excuse my French for that, but I say that because, they have all these lists and they like to divide people up so much.
Yeah.
Where you're the biggest this and the largest that, and you're the biggest. And until I'm on the list of the absolute best, right? I don't want to be the biggest. I want to be the best. And if I'm on the list of being one of the best engineering firms, no qualifiers, no size, no race, no minority, then I will say, I'm a success. Because I know that nationally or internationally, when someone thinks about who is the best person or the best firm to do this work, they think about us.
So who shaped you? What shaped you growing up?
So I come from two parents. My mom is from downstate Roberta, Georgia, like somewhere between Valdosta and Macon. The third city on the sign, on one sign on the highway, right?
I know that area from going to college down there.
Exactly. And so she moved up here when she was 5. My dad was from Natchez, Mississippi. He came up here when he was 16. And they both just began to start their lives. And by happenstance, they met. And so I say all that to say I come from Southern roots. And I think a lot of those Southern roots shaped me as a person.
Yeah. What do you identify with that?
There's a work ethic that comes with people from the South, because no matter where you're from in the South, you have some point in time worked on a farm. It just is what it is, right? And so when my sister and my cousin would go down to Georgia for the summer, we were chickens and horses and cows, and we had to eat what we what we were able to get from the land that day. I just think that starts a work ethic that passes down from generation to generation, that if you want it, you got to go get it.
Mm-hmm.
The food, there are no I don't even think there was a grocery store in Roberta, Georgia for years. And when there was, it was a small one. And so you lived off of the land. You had to go and get what you needed. And that's a really interesting mentality, because I think today, what that means for our kids is they go to the store and get what they need, and there's no work involved.
Or they go to their phone.
That's right. And have
no
someone deliver it.
friction.
And have someone deliver it versus actually going to get your milk or your eggs or your food,
All right, we're going to hold that. We're going to hold this idea for friction and come back to that in a little bit. So your parents shaped you, the Southern roots shaped you, and but you were born in
Born in
Chicago?
Chicago. Born and raised in Chicago, south
Okay.
side of the city.
Okay.
I was born in on 123rd and Sangamon. They call it the Wild Hunters. And then my parents moved to Jackson Park when I
Mhm.
was 10. Moved to Jackson Park, where they still reside today. I worked at the Museum of Science and Industry all throughout high school. And when I was in high school, I was pretty good at math and science. My mom is an educator. And so I would have to grade her papers. When I'm like fifth grade, and she was teaching seventh and eighth graders, she would make me grade her papers after I did my homework, right? And so then we had these weird games around math and science where, I was a fat kid growing up. And so I had a whole thing of sweets at the grocery store that I wanted. It became a game. If you can guess everything in your basket within $1, all in your head, then I'll buy it for you. It took me about a year to get there. And so I would have to put it all back. And so then I would just get small things, et cetera, because I don't want to go and put it all back. Then I got good at it. Then my mom was like, okay, well, taxes 3.75%. You got to come within a dime. And so now my basket is getting bigger and bigger because I'm getting better and better. But what I didn't realize she was doing was teaching me mental math in a way that today I'm amazing at mental math because I've been doing it for so long. And so I say that to say, really good in math and science. When I was in high school, one of my physics professors came to me and said, hey, physics teachers came to me and said, hey, one of our alumni has a little engineering firm, a little construction firm, and they want to set up a minority internship program. Are you interested in getting a job over the summer as a construction? And I was like, absolutely not. No, I'm going to be a doctor or a lawyer or something. No. Engineer, I don't want to drive trains. What are you talking about?
Thank God this happened.
So I don't want to do this. And they said, well, it's $7.50 an hour. Now this was back in now what you wanted to do. I always have been, I'm good at math, right? And I've always kind of had this really strange innate business
Sense.
about me. And that's a whole nother story. I had a small business before that. And so I did it for the money. Ended up making like $7.50 an hour when minimum wage was $3.25, right? And so here I am, 16 years old, making double minimum wage. And what that taught me was the value of money. So I wanted Jordans so bad.
Well,
My mother would never buy them for me. And when I got my own money, I was like, I'm not spending $100 on a pair of shoes. Are you kidding me? I can't do that. Like I'm trying to buy a car. Like I need to be able to save my money to buy a car. I'm not
so
going to
at
buy this.
16, you were able to do that, though? You had that level of impulse control? I mean, I think at 16, for me, when I was working, I was like, oh, I'm going to go buy them.
I needed a car. Right? You can have all the Jordans you want to. You just go wear them out on the bus. And so I'm trying to get a car. So I bought my first car for $875.
Wow.
Yeah, at 16 years old.
Amazing.
Yep.
So at what point did you sort of know that you were intellectually gifted? And I say gifted not to be dismissive of the hard work, but just that you had what I've observed is you have this ability to work hard. That's innate in you, right? A want, a drive, right? An ambition, and you have an intellect. So you marry them. But how did you come to that intellect? Was it in high school or was it later on?
Actually, I think it was a little bit before that. But I'm not sure. I'm not convinced that people are born with certain intellects. I really believe that my parents were very deliberate about what and when and how and where to teach me. And so once it becomes innate to you as a child, then it feels like it's just kind of natural in high school and college because that's all you know. But I really think it started at 4 or 5 years old with little things from education and little things from math, things I didn't even realize I was learning high level mental math, but I'm doing algebra in my head, right?
Yeah, so they set the stage. They put you in a sandbox that allowed you to
Absolutely.
play while it was play for you, but, learning and
And so when you add that with a competitive drive, because I've always wanted to be the best. So when I was in grade school, I went to St. Albie, little school in 91st and Stony Island on the south side of the city. And I've always wanted to be the best. And so there was always these contests. Who was the smartest in the class, right? It was never who was the fastest. We didn't have a basketball team or anything like that. Who's the smartest in the class? And so, and then when I got to go to high school, I wanted to go to Mendel, and Mendel closed. And so Mr. Bowser, my 8th grade teacher, said, well, you know, the best high school in Chicago is St. Ignatius. Now, that was purely his opinion. But as a 12-year-old, that shaped me to I want to go to the best. And so I went to my mom and we went to St. Ignatius. I applied to one college, University of Illinois, because in 1992, the #1 civil engineering program in the nation, the best in the nation, was the University of Illinois. I didn't apply anywhere else. I lied. I told my mom I applied to 5 colleges to hedge, and I did not. I applied to one college because to me, if I'm not going to go to the best college for my major, then where would I go anywhere else? And so I've always had this, when you add the intellect with this desire and will to always want to be the best, I think it creates magic. I'm struggling as a dad trying to figure out how do I create that in my own daughter. But I believe that was the magic sauce that carried me for the rest of my life.
And so when you went to U of I,
Yeah.
you got in, and you majored in
Civil engineering.
And
What?
you go get a second degree thereafter?
No, so I have a bachelor's and master's in civil and structural engineering.
Civil and structural.
At University of Illinois, Chicago. Well, I did U of I Champaign for my bachelor's, U of I Chicago for my master's, and then I'm a glutton for punishment, so I kept going and got a master's in business at Notre Dame.
Got it. So are you done getting professional degrees?
That's a fantastic question. I don't know. Why do I say I don't know? I think that there's some opportunity to learn more about business that I have not yet mastered, and I'm almost 50, and I would love to go back and get a doctorate in some business area.
Just continue the learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Was there a moment in time when you felt like you knew you were going to be an entrepreneur, you had to build for yourself and not for others?
Yeah. So I had I lived in South Shore in an area called Jackson Park Highlands. And I had this, I had a friend down the street, was probably 2 years older than me. And he was the only Jewish kid in an all-black neighborhood. Right. And so, but him and I became really good friends. And he was like, yo, we should start this window washing business. Because him and I, we used to play video games, all types of other stuff. I'm like, window washing? He's like, dude, look at the houses around here. Get a ladder, some Windex, we can make a lot of money, right? And so him and I started this window washing business together. And we made like a couple $100 in a few weeks. And we're like 13 years old. He's like 15, I'm 13. We're in high school. And then I started a lawn service. So I had multiple lawnmowers, and I would go and just mow the lawns of everybody in the neighborhood. And it got to the point where I used to have my friends come. They would get a lawnmower, and then they would go and cut the grass, and I would just go collect the money. I can negotiate. And my dad came home one day, and somebody else was cutting the grass. And he's like, "Who is this?" And I was kind of like, I got people, Dad. What we say? Like he's like, I don't care what you got going on. You are gonna cut my grass. Like, you cut my grass.
You're my son.
That's right. You cut my grass. And so I've always kind of had this strange.
What a moment that must have been. Oh my God.
Yeah, this strange entrepreneurial feeling about it.
Could you imagine you coming home, your daughter, I know that she's practicing making dinner. Yeah. Somebody else is making dinner. You're like, what?
Yeah.
I got peeps, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't quite say that, but that's kind of how I said it in my head, I think.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the growth and evolution of this business, right? I'd love to understand the story in any way you want to tell it,
Yeah.
You founded in 2005, right?
I did.
We met each other in 2016, 17, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You took a large amount of money out, right? Some debt to get that thing started. And
yeah, no, not quite. So I started the business because I was working for a nonprofit trade association called the Mason Contractors Association of America. And these contractors were entrepreneurs from all across the country. They were the top 1,000 mason contractors in the country. represented hundreds of millions of dollars. And I was the chief engineer, helping them to write building codes,
Wow.
helping them to devise, different designs, et cetera, as the chief engineer for this large thing. So I was surrounded by these entrepreneurs for years. And what I learned was they're not, they were obviously all smart guys, but they're not like any smarter than anybody that I actually know in my circle. They just happen to have different opportunities to do some things differently. And so they needed a lot more technical assistance than the association could offer. So at the time, my boss, he said, if you want to start your own firm and help them on the side, you're welcome to do that, but I can't do it under our insurance or what we got going on here. So that's when I started the Roderick Group. The Roderick Group, I'm Rashod Johnson. That's my middle name. Started the Roderick Group in 2005, just as a side hustle to help the contractors do some design work around wall bracing, et cetera, that I couldn't do through my full-time job. And I made like $70,000 at nights and the weekends on like the second or third year I was in business, 2006. And I thought to myself, if I can do this at night and on weekends, what could I do if I had the 60 hours a week that I was actually working? And so I was married at the time. I went to my then wife and said, hey, I'm really thinking about doing this on my own. She said, absolutely not. We just got married. We can't do that. I went to my parents, who have supported me in everything I've done. And I'm like, I'm really thinking about quitting this. And absolutely not. You are a husband. You have a responsibility. You have a family now that you are responsible for. Now's not the time to do this. Like, you need to wait a little bit. And everything around me was saying, now's not the time. Everything in me was saying, you got to do it. And so I prayed about it. And because I had just gotten married, my wife at the time didn't like my church. I didn't like her church. So we went church hopping. We just, every Sunday we pick a different church. We heard something about it. We pick a different church. And this one Sunday, we ended up at this church, Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church, on Southside Chicago. This preacher who I'd never met before in my life. I'd never seen this man before in my life. It's going crazy. The church is going crazy. And I'm not that guy. I'm an engineer. I kind of chill, right? I'm just even keeled. And he says, I don't know who this is for. I just got an email from heaven. The time is now. And I was just like, that's not my message. Time is now to stop smoking. Like, time is now to stop beating your kids or drinking, whatever it is you're doing. Yeah, people, time is now. And he said, you already started your firm. Quit your job and work it full time. God will take care of you. So now I'm crying like a baby because I don't even know what to do with this information, right? I'm getting ready to now make a lifelong change decision with everything around me saying, don't do it. And so I went to my boss. I quit my job.
What's the emotion you're feeling right now? I see those eyes.
Just thinking back on that moment and the courage that it took.
Yeah.
That there was no one that really understood what I was trying to do other than me and God. No one understood it.
It takes a lot of courage, man, and faith to be able to do that. That's scary, right? Your innermost network, your parents, your wife.
Yeah.
And when you took that leap, what came of it?
So I quit. I went to Mike Adeliz, the same guy. And I told him, I said, I got to go. I got to quit. And he said, well, absolutely not. You can't. We need you. And I was just like, well, it's not up to you anymore.
Sure.
It's not up to you anymore. I got to go. I got to quit. And so he said to me, thank you. He said, then let me be your first client. And so for 75% of my salary, I now was a consultant for him that freed up my time to let me do and start and do all the things I need to do at the Roderick Group.
Amazing.
God took care of me.
When did faith develop for you?
Oh, I mean, it's my family. Again, those Southern roots.
Yeah.
That's where all that comes from.
So you always believed.
Yeah. What's funny is my parents were Baptist, and I've always gone to Catholic school. And so my parents said, we're not going to force anything on you. When you're ready, you do it. And so I was 17 years old when I got baptized because I decided that that's what I wanted to do. And I got baptized in the Baptist church. But because I was kind of caught between these two worlds, they just said, when you're ready.
And was it a straight line after that, after you jumped in?
Oh, 17, I was going to college.
No.
Oh.
When you jumped in, when you jumped into the Roderick group.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely not. So we struggled. I was a consultant at first. So I'm just kind of doing things that it was all 100% dependent on me. And I hired my first hire, an assistant. Um, I hired my first engineer just to kind of help me do some other stuff. And it wasn't going well at all. And I had a chance meeting with one of my fraternity brothers who said, hey, what are you doing tomorrow night? I was like, nothing. He's like, come to dinner with me. I'm thinking we're just going to dinner. And I got a very quick lesson on Chicago. I went to dinner. He was a sitting state representative. He's not anymore, so I can actually tell the story. Sitting state representative. And it was me, him, the head of IDOT, which is the Illinois Department of Transportation, and the owner of a very large engineering firm here in the city. And he looked at them and said, I understand you all need some help on that legislation you want some help with. That's Rashod. Rashod does exactly what you do. And that was it. Called me the next day. We got onto our first IDOT project. And he came to me afterwards and said, don't fuck this up. To this day, I see him and I was like, I didn't fuck it up. But that was kind of the spring
Pivotal moment one.
Pivotal moment one, exactly.
What year was that?
2009.
2009. Okay. And so from take me through 9 to 15, 16.
Yeah.
You grew undulations with
crazy. So once we got in, we start growing. Once we hit you set goals, not realizing how to set goals. And so I was like, I just want to do $1 million in business. Well, first year we did $1 million in business. I just want to do $10 million in business. So now a few years later, $10 million in business. But to get there, the rain dance for money. Oof. I mean, we have about a 100-day cycle from the time we do the work to the time we get paid, which means you have to float the business for 100 days, which means that everyone has to get paid, our lights have to stay on, rent has to be paid. And my parents, I went to every bank I could, but I'm an unknown commodity. No one knows who I am. They're not going to pay you all this money I'm going to give you all this money to. So my parents went into their pensions and they took out $250,000 out of their pensions and loaned it to me.
Wow.
To help me make payroll for about 6 months. Now my mom, and her infinite wisdom, she told me, go get an attorney. So she had her attorney, my attorney. We had to have loan documents, etc. It was, but I was like, it's my mom.
If you were bankrupt, she was gonna be first in line.
She was like, absolutely not. And so get your attorney to review it. We have real documents. And so they were able to help me float and bridge for really on and off for about 1.5 years. Wow. I would pay them back, then I would need it again, and I would pay them back, and I would need it again. So about 1.5 years, they helped me float payroll for the company to help get it going.
So sounds like about a 10-year period of growth, ups and downs, bridging the gap, finding the cash to cover the float.
Yep.
Then there was a period where you decided, I am going to put my foot on the gas and take some exponential risk.
Yeah. And the biggest exponential risk there was I bought a company called Ardmore and Associates. So at the time, we were about a $6 million a year company. And Ardmore and Associates was a $15 million a year company. And this woman, she owned Ardmore, and we were sitting at a meeting for the Illinois Tollway waiting for it to happen. I kind of mumbled under my breath, this is some bullshit. And she said, excuse me? She's like buttoned up. She's, excuse me? I was like, nothing. I didn't say anything. What did you say? I didn't say anything. And then she gave me that black mama. I asked what you said. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I said it was bullshit. I don't know what to say. But she said, it was bullshit. You should meet me for lunch next week. I'm just like, I don't know what that's about, but okay. We met for lunch, and the whole first lunch, she didn't say anything about business. It was all about Rashod. Where you from? What you do? It is. You married? This, that. I'm like, is this old lady trying to hit on me? Like, what is happening right now? Right? I'm like, she's older than my mother, and I'm feeling a little uncomfortable here. So then she said, let's meet again for lunch. So 2 weeks later, we meet again for lunch. Then it's all about the business. So I'm thinking, okay, well, she's trying to figure out if we could be partners and do some work together, right? Once again, she says, meet me for lunch again. So 2 weeks later, we meet for lunch. And the day before lunch, I'll show you how small the world is. The day before lunch, I got a phone call from one of my mentors who owns Walsh Construction.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that construction company I worked for in high school?
Mm-hmm.
It was Walsh Construction. And as a result, I became really good friends with the CEO of Walsh. His kid and I are good friends to this day. And he called me up and says, well, I think it's a great idea. I said, well, what's a great idea? He's like, you buy Cheryl's firm. What? I had no idea. And so at lunch the next day, she says, I really think you should consider buying my firm. I was like, you know what? That's great. Every single dollar that I've earned in the last 10 years, I have completely reinvested it back into the firm. So if you're going to sell it for this $255 I got in my pocket, cool. Otherwise, I don't have the money to do this. And she said, let me help you. Excuse me? Let me help you buy me. And together we put together a plan. We brought in an investor. We got banks involved, etc. And she helped me buy up. And so this $6 million firm bought this $15 million firm in 2017. And in 2017 combined, I think we were 18 million because we did it in August. And today, it was 2017. And today, not quite 10 years later, so what is it, 8 years later, we'll do right under 300 million in revenue. Wow. That was the springboard that just kind of took it to the next level.
That's epic. So many questions about that, but I have so many others. I don't know where to go next. Let me ask you a different question. Not about the technical aspects of the business, but about leading and being sort of front and center. What's the hardest lesson you've actually learned through a mistake?
I make mistakes every day. I'm going to weave a little bit into there for you. My daily prayer, including this morning, my daily prayer is for discernment, because I have to make hundreds of decisions a day based off of very little bit of information. So in business, I have to decide things that are impacting people's lives, that are impacting employees' families. And I have to make these decisions like that. I don't have time to dwell on it. And I only have 10% of the information, and decision still has to be made. And so I've made some decisions, really sketch decisions that I probably shouldn't have made. And while some turned out okay, some turned out really bad. But I think my biggest challenge around bad decisions have always been around people, right? And so when I think about discernment, I want to know that in this job interview, I'm not just looking for, can you do the job, but who you are as a person, and will you fit into what we got going on? And so 3 years ago, I decided I wanted to kind of take things to the next level, and I hired all these high-level people. And the vast majority of them are gone now. And that was just 3 years ago. And so I'm still learning. I'm still learning.
Why didn't it work out? Why didn't those, I mean, sure, each one individually, but they're probably like, what was it about the collective? Did they not share the same mindset? Like, unpack that for me.
Yeah. So, I was looking at their experiences at larger firms because I grew up in my firm. And so the largest firm I've ever operated has been my firm that I'm in right now, right? And so I was trying to find people who were able to operate in significantly larger firms and bring that experience to my firm to help this kind of grow. And I was so focused on that experience that I did not focus on who those people were and whether or not they really were going to fit in with our culture and what we're trying to do. One of the things I'm really proud of is that we have built a fantastic culture of authenticity at the firm.
What does that look like?
Black people in general always say that we have to code switch.
Mm-hmm.
We have to say and do things at work that we can't say and do at home. It's just not appropriate. I've created an environment where I do very little, if any, code switching. I am my true and authentic self at work the same way that I am my true and authentic self at home. And I don't want it to be limited to just me. And so I really try to create an environment where whoever you are, you can be your true and authentic self. I'm not asking you to not be professional. Absolutely, we're still going to be professional. There's some things that are obviously appropriate at home that are not appropriate at work, but it doesn't define who you are. You can be your true and authentic self at work because that's actually who I want to come and work for us.
Totally. But is that hard?
It's
I
extreme.
was going to say, like, that has to feel, because everybody's backgrounds are so different and diverse. How do you handle conflict? How do you handle emotion? What is that like? And you have a very diverse firm.
Very diverse.
So that means, like, right, a lot of different things might feel normative
Yeah.
for different people,
Yeah.
and that they bring to work.
It's a huge challenge. My human resources vice president one day was like, human resources would be so much easier without the humans. So I was like, that's kind of your job. It is a challenge, but I think that again, that also I think is that's the sweet sauce of Ardmore Roderick, right? We really let people. Obviously, there's some metrics and some
Yeah.
KPIs and some things we got to do, but we don't care. Even when our clients may or may not like, we have very conservative clients. We are in infrastructure. So we do engineering, construction, et cetera. We are in infrastructure. Those clients by nature are very conservative people, engineers, et cetera. And we have almost everything on our team, every diverse, and we love it. And we tell them it is completely okay.
Talk to me about how you handle others' fear of situations as a leader when you know it's the right move.
I shift the ownership. What do I mean by that? I had someone once come to me and said, I can't believe that you're letting him do this. And I said, not particularly that situation, it's about something else. I can't believe you're letting him handle the situation this way. And I said, I walked to him and I asked him, are you sure that this is what you want to do? He said, yes. I said, do you own it? He said, what do you mean? Are you good, bad, or indifferent? Do you own it? He says, I own it. Absolutely. Then let's go ahead and move forward with that. And I told her, he told me he owns it. That gives me the ability to hold him accountable for no matter how good or how bad it is. And as a result, I'm going to trust that he's going to do what's in the best interest. And so as long as he owned it, I'm okay with it because I want to give people the power to be able to make some decisions that might not be popular, but I need them to own it.
So can you coach me for a second? So one of the things that I really struggle with is when I know I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
I know it in my heart and in my soul. And I struggle with, do I push that decision through, or do I let somebody learn from their own experience of making the decision, right? And most likely getting it wrong in my head. Now, there's, of course, it's always biased that way, but I struggle with that.
Well, you sound like a father, first of all, because I think we all have that challenge. I hired a COO, and he told me this. He said, Rashod, he's the first day of work. He said, Rashod, there's 5 ways of doing something. One of them is wrong. One of them is the way you would do it. That means that there's 3 ways to do it that are not wrong.
And not your way. Got
But
it.
more importantly, it's not wrong. It might not be your way and how you do it, but it's not wrong.
So are there rituals, routines that you guys have in place that have allowed you to scale but not lose these values?
It's a struggle. It really is. And so there are some things that we do. For example, we have 13 offices across the country now. And
Man, you had one office when I knew you.
I know, right? We have 13 offices across the country, and 4 times a year, we fly everybody into Chicago. Everybody. We spend the money and bring
How many
everybody in.
people is that?
A little over 300 people right now.
Wow.
And I'd say, but probably 180 of them are in Chicago. So, but we fly 120 people into Chicago 3 or 4 times a year for our annual meeting, for our Christmas party, for our summer picnic, and we fly everyone in. And we do that because we want to keep them connected, but also because we're trying to make sure that the culture that we have is not just the culture in this office, and then there's a different culture in this office, or a different culture in that office. And so one of the ways to do that is to make sure that everyone gets together. Secondly, we do our best to make sure that our leadership visits all of our offices and all of our teams, so no one feels like they're on an island. We've walked away from a pretty good acquisition in New York because we didn't feel like they would ever fit into our culture. The money was right. It would have helped us financially, but I think I would have lost all the people because I don't think they would have ever fit into our culture.
Did you know that, or was your team telling you that?
I knew that.
You knew it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Fortunately, my team also saw the same thing, and so there was very little.
So it wasn't difficult because you all were aligned. Everybody was aligned.
Everybody was aligned.
So the math made sense, but the culture did not.
That's right. Now, I did have one person in the math that was like, we really need a presence in New York. Like, this is going to give us a New York license. This is going to give us a New York this. And I was like, yeah, but to what end?
Can I talk about race for a second?
Sure.
In engineering, there aren't many black CEOs like you.
Yep.
Right? I'd probably argue there aren't many CEOs like you. Forget the color of your skin, right? And I've had the privilege of, being alongside, right? What does it mean when you walk in the room and there aren't people that look like you? Do you even think about that anymore?
There's never a day that you're going to walk into a room and you're the only one and not feel it. Even when I hear people say that, I know that's not true. As humans by nature, because it's not enough to be the only one in the room like you, but everyone else knows it too. And when they start to treat you differently as a result, that's when it becomes painfully obvious. And so I was walking into our building, and there was an older white gentleman dressed up, suit and tie, had a portfolio. He was struggling trying to get into the building. I had on jeans. I had on a sweater or something and some gym shoes. And I'm walking into the building, and I said, do you need some help getting into the building? He's like, no, I'm good. I said, I mean, where are you trying to go? No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm good. Like really dismissive. Okay. I go into the building, I go about my day. About an hour and a half later, my senior vice president comes in. He says, hey, I'd like for you to meet our CEO, Rashod Johnson. He looked like a ghost. He was there for a job interview. And without even knowing what happened, he completely dismissed me as though I wasn't even there. And I said, oh, we met earlier. And he looked at me. He turned white as a sheep. Needless to say, my senior reviewer was like, he's not the right person anyway. He wasn't kind of job. But you'd be surprised, man. I go to a lot of places where I'm the only one, or people look at me and they make judgments, and and so while I would love to tell you, it doesn't bother me, that's a lie. It bothers me every time. I just choose not to let it.
So you can talk about so talk to me about, because we've talked about this a couple of times, the responsibility of being a successful black man in America, and the modeling and pressure that's required.
Yeah. Again, I think it's all about how you react to it. I believe that to whom much is given, much is required. And a lot of people like to use that quote in the Bible, to whom much is given, much is expected. It doesn't say expected. It says it's required. Expected gives you an option
of an out.
That's right. A requirement does not. And so I take that to heart, and I really take that to heart. And so I do my best to make sure, not just me, but everybody in our firm are really understanding of the obligation and the requirement. I had that same senior vice president came to me one day and was like, "We have a problem." I'm like, "Okay, what's going on?" He is a 6 foot tall, blonde, white guy from Indiana. "We lost 3 black men this week." I said, "What happened to them?" He was like, "They quit." I was like, "Oh, okay." You said lost. I'm like, "What happened?" Right? He said, "We lost 3 this week." And I'm just like, "Hmm. So what are we gonna do about it?" He's like, "Well, we have to figure out how do we recruit." This is somebody who is not part of the community, but understands the importance of it in our firm, and that this diversity is what makes our firm, and is now taking active steps to make sure that he maintains the diversity in this firm. That's not in his best interest, in his family's best interest. He understands that that's who we are as a firm, and it wants to make sure that the firm stays and keeps its competitive edge. And so I absolutely love that's the culture that we're really creating at our company. We don't run from race at all.
So, I have, uh, as I said earlier, one of the things that you have a unique gift of doing is using logic, being rational and pragmatic, and also connecting deeply with emotion, which is a tie that binds.
Yeah.
Um, you've taken radical ownership of your health over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
How can you walk me through the psychology of the switch that happened for you?
So you know the story, but I'll tell you anyway. I wake up on a Saturday, something's not quite right. So I call my doctor, says, "Hey, something's not right." "Are you having a heart attack?" "Absolutely not." "I'm not having a heart attack." He's like, "Okay, well, come in on Monday before you go to work." I'm like, okay. So I come in here on Monday before I go to work, take off your shirt, do an EKG, and then you came back in and you said, "Let's go right now." I said, "What do you mean?" "You are having a heart attack. Let's go right now, right now." And you took me to the back door of of Rush Hospital, and we got admitted. And 3 days later, I had a stent in the middle of COVID. At the end of that, the heart surgeon, Dr. Chen, as he was giving his debrief, he said, "You're very lucky. You had 98% blockage in the LAD. We call that the Widowmaker. And you're very lucky that you survived this." And that actually took me into a 6 month depression, because I was trying to figure out, why did I survive? Why? It wasn't to be this successful business person, to make all this money. And so why did I survive? What what about me was so different that God said not today? Because I should have been dead. And so I became in the 6 months really trying to seek for answers, right? You never really find the answers, but in this search, I realized that my legacy is so much bigger than this business, and I needed to be able to do things differently. And so I I I became at the time, my ex-wife was trying to move, and so now I got into a custody battle. And timing is everything. I'm not sure that I would have. I'd like to think that I would have. I just don't know that I would have fought as hard to keep my daughter, if I didn't really understand that my purpose was really about her and my family. And so now I have my ex-wife who's literally trying to take my purpose away from me.
Mm.
And so I fought for full custody. I fought, and there was nothing that was going to happen that was going to stop me from keeping my child. Uh, so much so that later I admitted to her, I said, had I lost, I was just going to move to Georgia, buy a house down the block. I wasn't going to be without you. But then after that, I opened myself back up to the possibility of getting married again. Again, I don't know that that even happens. I was, let's just say that I was young. I'm not so young anymore, but I had had a good life as a single man. I'll just leave it there for you.
Yep.
And I opened myself back up to, the possibility of a family and remarrying, and all that happened because I was trying to find my purpose. And so now that I have renewed purpose in my family and my purpose in terms of my legacy, etc., I was like, I can't go through this again. Not right now. I mean, I was 44. And so that was the impetus between me saying, okay, I got to do something different. And it's still a struggle every day. Every day. It's a struggle for me. I have a very unhealthy relationship with food, and I know it. And so some of that, and I thank you for helping me to kind of figure some of that out is, oftentimes, we blame, I'm fat, I'm big boned, whatever. We know that's not true. I know. But, we think it's all food, but in reality, it's actually, it's in your head. Like, why do you eat this much? Why do you overeat? What are you compensating for? What are you coping with? And so every Thursday, yesterday included, every Thursday, I'm in therapy every single week, to try to get the mind right, to help me get the body right, to help me get my spirit right, to make sure that my purpose is fulfilled.
What's that done for you, therapy? Because I remember, because I remember our conversations around this, and
Yeah.
at first you say, well, okay, I mean, maybe fine, but you have a very logical brain, right? And how everything works, and because you're so smart, you have the ability to poke holes, right? Play the contrarian in all of it, right? So, how is that helping you?
I think the biggest thing that therapy has done for me in the past year has been to understand that uh, because I am a little bit of a control freak,
What?
just a little bit,
No way.
just a little bit of a control freak, um, I actually understand better that I'm also in control of my emotions and my reactions and how I think about things. And so, while on one hand it was, I'm not real sure, on the other hand, it was like, I'm a control freak. I should be controlling this anyway. And so, as a result, I'm learning how to really, things that would happen to me today that could have happened 2 years ago, I have a completely different reaction to, because I'm in control of my reaction. I'm in
Well,
control of my emotions.
yeah. I mean, what I would say is I've in observing you, there's a little bit more of a peace and an equanimity,
Yeah.
where before I would say that there might have been like a little bit more of an on camera. I mean, it's not code switching, but there's a little bit more of an on camera, and nobody's going to really get the depth of you unless it's like circle of deep trust,
Right.
right? And now it doesn't seem like you're as vulnerable. You're aware that and emotions come up,
Yeah.
right? I mean, look, you've been generous by being extremely emotional about your daughter, about your parents, about some big moments in your life in this episode. And I don't know that would have been 2 years ago.
I've always been a weirdly emotional person, to be honest with you, but only about certain things. I have like little things that I just can't quite, you know, keep control of. But I also think about it in a way that, again, I think that's really helped me in terms of. I feel like I'm almost an 85-year-old old ornery guy, right? And I'm to the point where I just don't give a shit anymore. Like, I could care less what people think about me.
We were
I could
talking about this.
I could care less what people think. I'm not trying to impress anyone. My wife and I were at a sporting event. We saw a friend of ours who he was very clearly flaunting his money and his wealth, etc. And that's cool if that's what you want to do. But I just meanwhile, I had on like jeans, gym shoes, and a hoodie. Like, I'm not that guy. Like, I still fly Southwest. Like,
Totally.
I fly private every once in a while, but I still fly Southwest. Like, I'm not that guy. I don't have to
Yeah.
be. But I just think I'm so over trying to impress and do things. I'm just, again, it falls back into a real authenticity.
You're finding your equanimity. You're finding your
That's right.
balance. Yeah.
That's right.
So, you're a proud teenage daughter survivor.
That I am. Whew.
What is that teaching you about life in general, and where do you see it being applied other than just at home?
I have the best story for this. This was, I don't know, 8 years ago. I had a very difficult employee, and him and I were on the phone, and she was in the back seat, and I'm on Bluetooth, and him and I got into an argument, and it just, I was patient. I was like, I just need you to listen. I said, just listen. I just need you to listen. I just need you to listen. Just listen. And he wouldn't listen. So now I'm raising my voice. Just listen. Just calm down. Just listen. And he just kept going. And I snapped. I snapped. I said, I motherfucked him. Like, if
Right.
I went
He
hard.
crossed the line,
He
and
crossed the
he crossed the line, and shots were fired.
So I'm hot. And then he says, well, maybe I just shouldn't work for you anymore. Maybe the fuck you shouldn't. Like, I mean, it was
on.
It was on. And so we hung up the phone. I turn around and I look at my daughter, and she's just like, that didn't sound good. I was like, it was not. She said, I don't think I'd like it if you talk to me like that. I think you should call him back and apologize. Fuck him. And no, absolutely not. I'm still in the moment, and I'm hot. I woke up the next morning. I thought all night about the example that I'm creating for my daughter, what she said in that moment. And it was a Friday night, and it was Saturday morning, and I woke up. I was like,
God, and she's so right, right? It's not even. It's just like,
I gotta-
God, why?
I got to call this man
How
back
old was
and
she?
apologize.
How old was she?
She's 16. She's probably 8.
She was 8.
9.
Let's just be clear.
Yeah.
An 8-year-old,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
Dissected.
Oh my God. And so I woke her up because I needed her
To hear it.
to be a part of the apology. And I didn't tell him there was her, obviously. I said, you know what? I lost my emotions yesterday. And I just wanted to tell you that it wasn't very professional of me, and I apologize. And his response pissed me off even more.
Of course, because he used it.
Right. He was like, you damn right you did. I was just like, oh.
God, what is the lesson here?
I am from the south side of Chicago, man. This is not the time. You know what? You're right. I was not professional. I apologize. Yes.
It's so hard to hold that power in that situation, right? Because it's
had to. But you know why? Because I had a purpose.
Yeah.
I was doing it for a purpose. If it was just for me, he would not be working. And to this day, by the way, he still works for me. We have a great relationship.
God.
But he needed to see that line. So now he knows how far.
Oh my God. You know, I feel that. I feel that right here because, I grew up in a house where the tone of your voice and the precision of the words you use were what won you the argument.
That's correct.
Not the contents of the argument, right?
Not.
So as a son of an immigrant, it wasn't always clear what the words were, the content was, but you knew the emotion, right, with fervor. And I grew up thinking that you had to prove beyond the shadow of a doubt. It was all right, like adjudicated in court, right? You had to get it right, rightism.
Yep.
And that is such a hard habit to break, especially because once I find, this is my story, once you're into that conflict and you're activated or triggered, to me it becomes a war.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like everything you give me is ammo, right?
And you are
and I am like, and I am filing it away, and I just want to I just want to win that, right? But that never serves me. I'm always having to clean up a huge mess, right?
Yeah.
Of apologies. And, cleaning up emotional messes are really hard.
They really are. And you and I are 100% alike in that. I should have been an attorney. In an argument, I'm purposefully trying to push you to make a mistake so that I can find the
Oh my
mistake
God.
and use it against you and just destroy you with it.
I remember.
And I do it very well.
Oh my God. That
I do it extremely
I
well.
remember being once in an argument, and this is ugly, but I remember the person was crying on the other side, and I said, "Oh, you think tears are gonna trigger something within me emotionally?"
Oh yeah.
Right? Like, "Oh, I'm supposed to feel sad or sorry for you." And I was like, I look back on those moments and think like, what a jerk,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Once again, though, right? I'm controlling.
Right. It's all about some narrative, but what I've come to learn is that everybody wants two things. They want to be seen.
Yeah.
They want to be heard.
Yep.
Right? I just want to be seen. I just want to be heard. Right? So how do two people relate to one another
Yeah.
in conflict? Figure out what the actual conflict is, right? Not the emotions of two people fighting to be seen and heard.
Right.
Right. And then the conflict is never the issue, right? Like, it's actually easy, generally speaking, when you can solve it. It's all the messy emotions around that.
Yeah.
Well, I find that therapy in and of itself is a really great gift, because what it is able to do in the right relationships, right? Not all therapists are great. And, there's a lot of,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stereotypes about it. But when you find an excellent partner, it's the same thing in business. You suddenly find somebody who is an expert, right, at shining a light on a recess of an area of your brain, your emotion, your neurochemistry
Right.
that might be off,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A blind spot.
And even though we often use the words blind spots, but in reality, we all kind of know where they are. We just choose.
Of course we do.
We just choose not to look over there.
Well, that's human behavior, right? Like,
I know that I just choose not to look there.
Bro, the pain hasn't been significant enough.
That's
right.
right. That's
Right?
right.
I mean, I think about,
That's
I
right.
think about, it's going to sound really strange to say, and we'll see if we want this in or out, but I think about how grateful I am that you almost had a heart attack.
How good? Okay, say more.
Because
Say more.
before that, right, it was all a game about the numbers
Yeah,
and where things were at, and I got to get this done, and I got to get this for this, and it was all a balance, right,
I hear you.
of something else. But now there's a genuine authenticity and acceptance of it.
Yeah.
There's not a fight about the contents of that.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. I say, I don't know if you remember in 2016, that was the first time I called you and something wasn't right. And then I always equated to God was kind of tapping me on the shoulder on that time. And then this most recent time, God took a 2x4 and hit me upside the head. And so it knocked me out, but it got my attention in a very big way.
Yeah, listening is a really hard skill.
Yeah.
That is one that is a lifetime of work. And in fact, this is one of the things that I love about being able to do this, is that there's nothing else going on. I'm actually not connected to my technology at all, which
Right.
is a gift,
Yeah.
right? I'm in this conversation, so I can listen and learn, and I'm totally loving it. You have worked and are working on some pretty iconic projects.
We are.
What's that like to work on these big, huge things? How do you handle that from an ego perspective, actually, right? Like, does it fill your head like, oh my God, I've arrived, we've done this, or, I mean, the Obama Center?
Yeah.
Right?
He just announced earlier this week that we'll be open in June. It's a fun project. It seems like there'd be some ego involved, but honestly, I'm humbled to be able to even work on it. We do some pretty large things, and one of the things that I just challenged my team to do is we always market it from a technical side, and I want us to market it more from the impact of the community.
God, please.
And so, for example, we just did the red purple modernization for CTA. For the last 5-6 years, we've been working on this project. It's going to end in the spring. And they're like, oh, well, we need to get drone footage because we built this and we got this new station, this and that. I said, that's all great. And technically, that's all wonderful. But the other thing we did was we added ADA elevators to 4 stations, which means that we gave access to the CTA to people that didn't have access to it before, right? There are no elevators on these places. We actually cleaned up some of the really dark areas of the city where people were getting robbed and there was a safety issue. Well, it's now a very inviting open space that we allow people in the community to feel safe. And so let's talk about some of the community impacts of what we're doing just as much as the technical. But I say all that to say I'm really happy and really proud of a lot of the large things because we work on some small things as well. And I just haven't really. Maybe it's just because I just haven't really like absorbed it all, but I don't think I don't think I've done a big deal. Like it's not a big deal. I got a whole
There's
lot
more work
to
for
do.
you to do.
Yeah,
Going back to the beginning, right?
a
Like
whole lot more work to
you
do.
haven't fully arrived. You've got more to do. You've got legacy and impact. So if you closed your eyes and, you know, um, your daughter was giving a eulogy about her dad, right?
Yeah.
Uh, what would you hope she's saying?
Well, as a person, I'd really love just to be able to leave a legacy of love, of excellence, of opening doors and providing opportunities for people in general. Um, I don't apologize and I don't walk away from. I'm a very proud Black man. Um, always have been, always will be. Um, and so I'd like to think that I've had an impact on my community bigger than just, you know, he was the largest Black this or he did this or that. But I don't know if it's uh, I've often held the idea that the higher you get, the more people see the target on your back. And so as a result, I just kind of want to lay low, just lay low. And then I got married 2 years ago, and my wife is saying, and while that may be the case, they need to know that you exist. They need to know that you, from the south side of Chicago, the same places that they're from, the same opportunities, the same streets that you played in, the same streets that play in, are now running a $300 million firm and they can too.
Amen. Because they also have to know, and this is my bias, right? What it means to be successful, not simply financially, not simply socially, but how do you take care of yourself, right? In order to help the community. Nobody needs high success done at 50,
I
right?
agree.
We need another 50 years, right, to be able to model and build and connect and show how you can take care of yourself.
We often hear, I don't know if it was you or somebody else told me, every time you get on an airplane, what do they tell you? Fix your mask before helping someone else. And too many times as entrepreneurs, we feel like we have to sacrifice. I sacrificed a lot in the beginning of my entrepreneurial career. Family, money, health. But you have to fix your own mask first
Totally.
in order to help someone else.
What was one of the harder leadership lessons that you learned in business while building the Roderick Group?
So there's a few leadership lessons I've learned. The biggest one, honestly, is to understand when to back up.
Say more.
I just hired a president for the first time in 20 years.
Oh my God.
I know.
Have you turned the therapy sessions up to like twice a week?
And what's funny is I have been recruiting this woman for 4 years. She didn't know it. I've literally been recruiting her for 4 years, placing her on boards, like helping her to get some things in her current role at another company, just kind of helping because she was new to Chicago, right?
What'd you see in her?
Even though she's older than me, and it's gonna sound funny, she's older than me, I saw a lot of similarities. Like I kind of feel like I'm a purple-haired unicorn, and I was like, okay, so this is a pink-haired unicorn, right? an engineer, master's degree, solid technically, MBA, understands the politics, gets it, right? And that's just not very many people do that. And to be a Black woman on top of that, I was like, okay, this is the pink hair unicorn I've been looking for. So I realized it early on. So I've been slowly recruiting her and then finally got to recruit her. And so I think the biggest leadership lesson has been to know when I've done what I can do. So I've taken the business to where we are today. I believe that we have a lot more to go, and I'm the bottleneck.
How did you figure that out?
Oh man, years. I probably, I'll be 100% honest. 3 years ago, when I brought in those leaders I was talking about, I realized in some of those leaders that I'm the bottleneck, and I needed to. Dare I say, they had to be. They had to come in and they had to challenge me, and we had to part ways.
For you to see.
For me to see.
What'd you see? Just like when you say you're the bottleneck, what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
Because is it the technical skill? Is it the trying to hold on to too much? Well, like, give me more.
So when I brought the new president in and I gave her all of her duties, she kind of looked at me and said, "So then what are you gonna do?" Because I had pretty much, and I said, "I'm glad you asked. One is I am going to be the creator and the disseminator of culture throughout the firm. Like, we have to be able to keep this culture of excellence, this culture of authenticity. We have to be able to keep it. I'm going to be that person, number one. Number two is I'm going to remove roadblocks because I'm really good at it, even if that roadblock is me. And that's been the toughest part. And then number three is I'm going to do high-level business development because that's just, I'm good at it. I like it. But removing those roadblocks has been interesting because I realized that I'm so ingrained in how I've done this, and I have a method of success that has worked, that I can't see that the method has to change in order for us to take this to the next level. It's a pure what got you here won't get you there scenario, right?
So something just happened for me in this, which is like, I told Shannon and Cody earlier this morning, forgive me if I'm off, as I'm wrestling with just some challenges in business as well. And you just really helped me clarify it. I mean, I think the idea and the notion, so just in that share, um, you know, the ability to be, chief culture officer, right? To make sure that the people, right, are connected and tethered, and that you, right, as the founder,
Right.
that's a really important role that takes time.
Yeah.
Right? It takes time. And if you're working on all these other things, you can't do it.
That's
Right.
That's right.
And then the other one about acknowledging where the roadblocks are and knocking them down is precious.
Yeah.
That's so important because as organizations grow, they become systems, right? And bureaucratic. And I have, as you could tell by that tone, right, some thoughts about that.
But
Thank you.
some of that is needed.
Right. For sure. And which is, you need to have a balance. It's not,
Right.
sort of willy-nilly, but you already have a COO, right? You have people in the right seats that are able, right, that you trust.
Right.
And so that, it sounds like you figured out when to back off, when not to, and you're able to understand.
Still daily learning it.
Oh, it's
but
always
yeah.
okay. Great. So keep going. What else? Anything else?
I have a great story about when I first got started in business. I applied for a project at the Chicago Department of Transportation. It was a project that we were very well qualified for. Small firm, 5 people. But we were still very well qualified as a small project. And I walked in, we submitted everything, and we lost the project. And so I called the city of Chicago to say, hey, I'm going to get a debrief as to why we lost this project and what we can do to strengthen our, qualifications for next time. I walk into this meeting and this man walks in. He says, "Who the fuck are you?" I'm Rashod. I'm the president of CEO. Okay, but who the fuck are you? I'm just like, dude, I just told you I'm Rashod. I'm president of the Roderick Group. Like, what are you saying? He says, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. if nobody around here know who the fuck you are, you will never get any work at CDOT. Huh. That was the best lesson I've ever figured out in my life. What he just told me was what I inherently knew but didn't really know, and that is relationships are everything.
God, it's a theme we were just saying, yesterday, right? The quality of
Everything.
everything, right? The quality of your relationships or you determine the quality of your life.
And that was my 3rd year in business. I was so angry at him at the time. And then afterwards, I was like, that was the best lesson I could have ever had in my life. We are in a relationship business. We're in the people business. This is what we do. Someone told me recently, relationships are the new currency. And I was like, that is amazing. And so that's what we've been doing for the last 17 years is just working on relationships. And that's really helped everything to grow where it is.
So what's one belief about power and growth that has changed for you over the years?
I used to think that power was about me. And now I realize that power is about everybody else. What do I mean by that? Oftentimes, when you're the leader of an organization, you have the ability and the power to do all types of things, et cetera, et cetera. But real power is understanding that I need to be able to do all of this in someone else's best interest, which really means that they are the ones that are in power. I'm just the facilitator. Our health insurance this year went up from $4.5 million to $6 million.
And that's not even that much relative to what it's going to be for other firms.
Well, I mean, it was 30% for us. And we have a grandfather plan because we refuse to get rid of it. And we refuse to get rid of it because it is a fantastic plan. Every year they've been trying to get us out and trying to get us out.
Of course.
So we're trying to now we have to make the decisions, right? $1.5 million just came off of so what do? Do we make our employees pay more money? Do we change and finally get rid of the grandfather plan? Do we just eat it? What do we do? So in order to make those decisions, I have the power to just make the decision. But I looked at, I'm probably responsible for about 700 people, right? 300 people in the firm, their families, etc. 300 people who might get sick, who might want to have babies, who might have heart issues, etc. And so it wasn't worth it to me. I made that decision based off of them, which means that technically they all had the power. I'm just a facilitator to make the decision. And so I think the biggest lesson in power that I've learned is the most powerful people in the world are the ones who make the decisions based off of the impact on other people.
That's amazing. All right, I'm going to quick pause for a second because I want to do something with you guys here as well, which is, so here's something I don't know what we'll do with, but in this conversation, what's been fascinating for me is not just the conversation, but I have been wrestling with yesterday's problems.
Yeah.
Like, they don't often happen, but you get some of them, and they just, for me, when there's a real problem, it affects my sleep, right? It carries forward, and this one has had all of that. And I've been sitting in this interview, in this conversation, engaging in it, but also what's happening is all of this stuff is absolutely helping me.
Good.
That's wild. It's totally wild. I like
Timing.
I love it. The timing, right?
Yep.
Totally. All right. What's one lesson you've learned the hard way but would never change?
Sacrifice.
Okay. Is there a story that goes with sacrifice?
Yeah. So I got married the first time in 2004. I started the Rado Group in 2005. I started an MBA program in 2006. And I'm one person. And all three of them needed my undivided attention. And in hindsight, I chose. And I didn't choose my family. That's a tough one. In hindsight, going through it, I'm Superman, right? I could do it all.
Oh my God, the Superman complex,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. I wear superheroes every day. Like, I am Superman. This is what I am, the Black Superman. It's what I do. I can do it all. And I realized I could not. And so whether or not I actually admitted it to myself or not, I did admit it to myself later in life that I chose.
So when did you, so great. I want to go down the Superman, superhero,
Yeah.
right, notion. How long have you carried that? And how does that title fit you today?
So I've always been a Superman, not a superhero, a Superman guy, right? I'm talking way back. And so my grandfather, it was something that my grandfather and I used to always have Superman. And when he died, he left me a Superman #1 comic.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I've always been, it's kind of been my thing, right? Like, it's
Right.
just, I have Superman and superhero and all the other stuff. And I think subconsciously, uh, I wanted to be Superman. And so since I really don't have, I can't fly or X-ray vision or any other stuff, I decided to be Superman and everything else. And so when I talk about being the best at my field, when I talk about, being the best dad I can, when I talk about, we don't want to be the biggest, we just want to be the best at what we do. I think all of that is part of my Superman complex.
But isn't there an inherent contradiction there?
Absolutely it is.
Right. So I'm Superman for all of these things, but isn't that the kryptonite? Because you can't do it all, right? So as you look back and you reflect, so when was there a moment where you're like, oh my God, this idea has an upper bound, right? There's a limitation, right? Or the other edge of the sword that's going to cut.
I think that just comes with wisdom. I think you have to fall in order to figure out what you can and can't do.
So this goes back to friction. You got to do the work.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do the work, you can't have the experience. You can't watch a TikTok of it. You can't see it on the gram or whatever, right? No movie that's going to do that for you. You have to like live through failure.
You have to. You have to. And what's a challenge with me is you said it earlier. This morning, I told my daughter, I cannot take you to school this morning. So you're going to have to get to school on your own. She's 16. No problem. I told her that last night. This morning comes, I wake up, I look down the hallway, she's still asleep. So I'm like, I need to wake her up. And my wife was like, absolutely not. We have to teach her. I said, but she's going to get detention. Then she gets detention.
Yeah.
And so I know that I need to wake her up, but she has to get up. But she has to be able to do this. So sure enough, she was late. Sure enough, she's got to school late. She's probably going to get detention, but she has to do that.
She's got to figure it out. She's got to own it.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
When did you feel most underestimated, and what did you do next about it? Or tell me a story when.
Oh, I am very much a hold my beer kind of guy. Oh, absolutely. Something happens. You tell me what I can't do. Hold my beer. Oh, absolutely. It doesn't even matter what it is. And that's part of my Superman complex, right? It's all coming full circle. I am absolutely a hold my beer guy.
Oh my God.
In almost everything. The biggest thing was when I bought Ardmore and Associates, my banker and my accountant at the time told me, you can't afford this. Not going to get it done. Absolutely. Absolutely. Whether or not it's starting my business, whether or not it's buying this business, whether or not it's.
So I think this is really interesting because sometimes that that inner strength, right? That inner ferocious, right? Being like humble and hungry, right?
Yeah.
Right. And having the conviction and the courage to, say, fuck you. Right.
Absolutely.
And it's not about being rude. It's just like, all right, I see that hurdle and I am not only going to crawl over it, I am going to fly over that. And
there's a fly over it because you know that you have prepared to fly over this and no one else knows that you have been preparing for this moment.
Right.
For years. And so
right.
you know you can do this.
Yep.
And no one else does.
So how do you then handle, and this is something that I think about all the time, which is there's at some point, right, there's some hurdle, there's some barrier that you're not going to get over, right?
Right.
And that mentality, right, can actually lead to being aversive for people, right? It can turn people off in a way. It's one thing when you leap and you leap and you leap, but is there an upper bound to that?
You know, that hurdle that you can't get over again, right? Some people are like, I can't do it. Me, I'm like, I didn't prepare enough. So I'm going to take 5 steps back because I only jumped from the 3rd step. So I'm going to take 5 steps back, get a running start, see if I can do it again. That didn't work. I need to go 7 steps back, redo some things, test it on a little bit smaller. And then in 3 weeks, I'm going to come back and I'm going to jump over that hurdle.
Got it.
That's just kind of how I'm wired. I don't know how else to explain that other than the best thing you can do is underestimate me. Like, that's the best thing you can do. Because every single time I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna get it done.
I'm smiling. I'm smiling because, man, can I identify with that?
Yeah.
What's something that no one told you about the success that was going to come for you? Like once you felt like you sort of arrived, what's a surprise to you?
Well, we talked about a little bit already, and that is no one told me that you are going to really sacrifice a lot to get here. You're gonna sacrifice a lot. Everyone likes the success. No one likes the process,
Totally.
right?
Totally.
Success takes process, right? It's just that simple. And so, the work, you got to put in the work, and no one talks about the work. They only talk about the success.
So, in going to some of the responsibility we talked about earlier, what's something you want young black men to hear about becoming an entrepreneur in this world and building that they need to hear, but probably don't or aren't hearing?
When you think about wealth, right? And I'm just talking about wealth, not success. Success is not wealth. Wealth is a portion of it for some people. But when you think about wealth in general, and a lot of people in my community equate wealth with success because we've not had wealth. And so the few people that have had wealth, they look at it as success. But when you look at the blacks or even the non-blacks who are really wealthy, all of them are entrepreneurs. All of them. And if somebody will say, oh, no, if you're an athlete, if you're an athlete, trust me, you have side ventures to help invest this money, to help you figure out they are all running some sort. The real successful athletes typically will turn that money into something else to help invest it to be wealthy. And so if it's a doctor, they own the practice. If it's an athlete, they have people around them. If it's if it's a rapper, he owns his masters. Like, I'm just saying, like, whatever it is, it's about business. And so entrepreneurship is in everything. It's in everything. I chose engineering because I was exposed to construction. I was going to be an entrepreneur no matter what.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
If I had decided to go to school for underwater basket weaving, I would have had the best underwater basket weaving company in the world.
Right.
That's just what I would have done. And so, if I had to talk to
So
young blacks,
vocation teaches you, really quickly, vocation teaches you technical skill,
right,
right? But doesn't provide the creativity, right?
or the risk taking,
Right.
right? You got to be comfortable taking some risk. But if I say anything, I would say, you got to try it. You got to do it every single time. You got to fail. And if you know something, like if you're really honest with yourself about what you know, you don't know, what you can and can't do. Don't let somebody tell you anything different.
Awesome. So how do you get honest with yourself, really, really honest with yourself today versus how you did when you were younger?
Oh, I lied to myself every day when I was younger. Oh, absolutely, I did. And now I'm just this old ornery guy that doesn't give a shit. And so I feel like,
Well, let's be
well,
clear.
guess what, Rashod? You can't do that no more.
Yeah, you're not really old.
Oh, but I feel it. And I don't mean old like in age. I mean like in mentality. When I think about the older gentlemen in my life when I was growing up, it
Yeah,
was very clear to me that they didn't give a shit about anything that we had going on
zero fucks given.
at all, ever. I have a jar on my desk that says "fucks to give," and it's a little jar, and it's got little words, little fucks in it inside of it, and I got like 3 left.
That's
So
amazing.
every time somebody comes in my office, I was like, you know what? That's a great point, and I give you a fuck. Now I'm running out of fucks to give, so let's be clear, right?
Can you take a picture of that later and send it to me?
I will.
Oh my God.
But they just didn't really care, and not that they didn't care.
No,
They
they
were so
care.
focused on what they were wanted to be focused on that the noise didn't bother them.
Right.
And that's what I mean about getting old. I'm at the age and the place in my life where the noise just doesn't bother me.
Right. They know what to focus on. They know where the signal
right.
is versus the noise. And that is such a powerful thing.
Discernment.
Discernment is huge because yeah, I'm thinking about it with regards to my 11-year-old son, right? I mean,
Sure.
and some of it is necessary development. Of course, you want to speed it up, right? You want them to see the other side, but they got to live it, right? They got to live it. They've got to feel the emotions of all of that stuff. And you know, you got to get them to the other side of that or hope that they get there. Yeah.
The last thing that I would add, if I'm talking to young African Americans, is faith is something that I think in this digital world is getting less and less prevalent, because oftentimes people feel like it comes from your parents, your grandmother, you got to go to church or whatever. And spirituality and faith are way different than religion. And I think that when you prepare to do something, if you have faith, that preparation takes on a whole different. I'll give you an example. If you are running down this road and then there's a cliff and you have to jump off the cliff, you're either going to be prepared or you're going to have faith. But either way, you'll be all right. And if you have both, then it's even better.
Awesome. I think we've talked about most of them. When did fear almost win for you? Was there a moment in time where it almost got the best of you and you couldn't barrel through? Or have you always been able to just be so bullheaded when you were younger and just you felt it, but you just drove through it?
I quit my company for very distinct times. For very distinct times, I quit. I'm done. Like, why am I doing this? It got too hard. And I remember the last time I did it, I got an offer from, remember that dinner I was talking about?
Yep.
That guy who owned a really large engineering firm, him and I stayed friends and mentors. And my business was struggling probably 3 years later, 4 years later. And he says, you know what? I am looking to hire a Chicago area lead. You got everything I need. You should consider coming to work for me as the Chicago area lead. At the time, it was like $250,000. It was more money than I have made in the last 5 years in the company. Like, literally, it was. So I go to my dad and I'm like, yo, what do I do about this? He said, do you know why he wants to hire you? I was like, yeah, because I'm that dude. Like, he's like, no, because he knows that if you're successful, you're going to be his competitor. And so if he can cut you off now by giving you a little bit,
Yeah.
right? He knows this.
Super smart.
He knows this. And then he said, no one's going to pay you $250,000 a year and not expect you to work your ass off. So if you're going to work your ass off, do it for you.
God bless your dad. What great wisdom.
Yep. And I was literally about to take this job. And today, by the way, that older guy is, he sold his firm. He's retired. He's gone. And here I am still here, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
What's one thing about leadership that you worry about might get you into trouble?
we talked about this earlier, but you mentioned that sometimes when you're right about something, I sometimes have an arrogance about me around this is what we're gonna do. I know what you said. I hear what you said. That's all great. This is what we're gonna do. My problem is I made up my mind before I actually listened to what they said. And so I'm trying to listen to what they say, not from whether or not it's the right thing to do, but whether or not it either supports or not supports what I've already made my mind I'm going to do. And so one of the things I've been trying to do now is just break that and really listen to what other ideas are and figure out how to, rather than making a decision and waiting for congruence.
What have been one of the biggest wins you've had as a leader, as an owner?
There's a program called Year Up, where they take young African-American students that did not go to college and give them some skills either in leadership, management, IT, etc. I was on the board of this organization I was actually the Chicago founding board member of it probably 15 years ago. And I had a young lady. She had joined our program. She was my, I don't know, 6th hire. So she kind of was the office manager to help me run it, etc. And she indicated to me that, I really want to go back and get my degree. So I was like, okay, we were a small firm. And I said, I make you a deal. I make a lot of deals when I come in. So I make you a deal. I don't pay for anything other than excellence. I don't. And so I'll pay for every A you get. If you get a B, you pay for it. And if you get a C, you have to pay me the value of that.
Wow.
Because I only pay for excellence. Now I'll give you the time off you need. I'll make sure but I only pay for A's. The first semester she went to DePaul. The first semester she got an A, a B, and a C, which basically made it clean, right? Because I paid for the A, she paid me for the C, which was to pay for the A, right? The B I didn't pay for. And so she realized that I was for real on it. She got straight A's the rest of the program. I paid for the entire program after that at DePaul because she now was motivated and she saw it. But now she is an entrepreneur. She's now started her own business, and we actually help her and support her in every way we can. And so when I think about where I know she started from, she helped me grow my business significantly. And then decided to go and pursue her own entrepreneurial endeavors. That's the whole goal, right?
Relationships, man.
That's right. That's right.
And she's forever going to be grateful. I'm sure if she was sitting here, right, she would have tremendous love and respect for you.
We still talk. Her mom and I, like, when she first started, it was so funny. When she first started, like, the first week, I had a proposal and I needed her help. And it was like 11 o'clock at night. And here we are, her first week, she's 19 years old, living with her mom. It's like, who's this dude you work for? Why are you at work at 11 o'clock at night? I call your mom. Call mama. This is Mr. Rashod Johnson. I really need her help. I know it's late. I will drive her home because she didn't have a car at the time, right? I'll make sure she gets there. And so since then, me and her mom, but when she graduated from DePaul, I felt like a proud big brother, and
That's awesome.
I'm there with her mom and her family, and it was pretty cool to watch.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man, for doing this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. I love hanging out with you.
Oftentimes I think we never talk about our stories, and we never talk about what makes us who we are. And so now that technology is here, and I love the fact that we're able to do that. And so I'm glad that you invited me. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. And thank you for being exactly who you are.
That's all I know.
Real and genuine and honest. And man, it's a privilege.
Yeah. Thank you.
So awesome, man.
Cool, man.
I appreciate you.